The question is, what is the clone? What's the makeup of a vine? We can't just take, in olden days, you could take, well, it's kind of hard to do, but you could take a cutting, and you can, just trim it all out, and let it put it in a cool, dark place, and it'll start to grow roots. And you could put that in the ground. You could raise a grapevine, and that's called own-rooted. Now in Oregon and Washington, they still do that sort of thing. Here, because of phylloxera and how much equipment goes from vineyard to vineyard and how that transports disease and these little root lice, you can't do that. So we have to use rootstocks, and there are probably 20 different rootstocks that are common today in viticulture, and some of them are really adapted to clay soils, some are really adapted to rocky soils, and then there's everything in between, and what that vine needs. So that's the clone of rootstock. Here it's probably, John Caldwell. He was a nurseryman, so he had every rootstock out of France. He'd go over there and he'd bring them back, his experiments, and he had the newest of everything when he was doing this. And so this is probably, a 3309 rootstock or an SO4 or something like that. Being that this is more of a clay type soil. Then there's the clone of Syrah. He's got, I know he has a lot of 877 clone planted out here, and there are 3 other clones. I can't remember them off the top of my head.
And the clones are grafted into the rootstock. That's the important thing to note.
And that's down at the root base. So if you can see where it's kind of narrow, and then there's a little kind of a ball. That's the graft union, and it's just calloused over time. Usually the cultivar, and these are all French cultivars, which is, anything, Syrah, Chardonnay, Cabernet, Merlot, those we all call French cultivars. Those typically grow a lot bigger and a lot more prolific than the rootstock does. The rootstocks are all American native rootstocks. They haven't been affected by phylloxera over the centuries and millions of years that grapevines have been growing. And there are 3 main kinds. There's Berlandieri, Rupestris, and Riparia. And these are found in all the creek beds across the country, and some grow in sandy sites, some grow in clay sites, and others grow in more drought-specific spots. So they're all adapted, and then they cross those to get the best of what you're looking for, and then there are new types.
And those are the clones? Those are called clones.
Clones of rootstock, and then there are clones of cuttings. And a lot of times what happens is you'll go to an old Syrah vineyard in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, let's say, and this might be the old Beaucastel clone or something like that. And what happens is the nursery will propagate it. They'll clean it up, get all the virus out of it, and say, this is grown in nursery row 877, so this is now clone 877. And you pay quite a bit of royalty for that. Every plant costs about $4. $1 of that goes back to the French government.
Wow.
Or so.